Death. It's something we all face, but what if the most famous story about conquering it actually reveals more about life than death itself? Today we're exploring the raising of Lazarus, and it's not the miracle you think it is.
That's such an interesting perspective. Most people focus on the supernatural element, but there's so much more happening in this narrative about human nature and divine timing.
Well, what really catches my attention is how Jesus intentionally waited 2 days before responding to this emergency. Here's his dear friend dying, and he deliberately delays, which seems completely counterintuitive for someone who supposedly loved this family.
You know what's fascinating about that timing? In Jewish tradition of that era, they believed the soul remained near the body for 3 days. So by waiting 4 days, Jesus was confronting what everyone considered absolutely permanent death.
Hmm, that cultural context changes everything. And here's another layer. Studies show that grief actually peaks around the third to fourth day after a loss, when the initial shock wears off and reality sets in. So Jesus arrived at precisely the moment of deepest human anguish.
That's exactly when Martha confronts Jesus with what must have been devastating disappointment. If you had been here, my brother would not have died. How do you read that interaction?
Well, it's like watching someone move through the classic stages of grief in real time. She starts with anger and bargaining, but then, and this is key, she makes this remarkable theological leap to hope. Modern grief counselors often talk about this kind of transformation.
Right. And then there's Mary's completely different response. While Martha engages intellectually, Mary falls at Jesus' feet in total emotional collapse.
That contrast is so telling. And here's what's really profound: Jesus meets each sister exactly where they are. With Martha, he engages in theological discourse, but with Mary, that's where we get those famous two words: Jesus wept.
So, what do you make of that emotional response knowing he was about to perform this miracle?
Well, it's like, um, imagine a parent watching their child struggle with something, even knowing the solution is coming. The compassion isn't diminished by knowing the outcome. Studies actually show that witnessed empathy can be as healing as the resolution itself.
That's such a powerful observation about divine compassion. Even knowing the end result, Jesus fully enters into their moment of grief.
And then we get to this absolutely electric moment: Jesus calling out, "Lazarus, come out." Ancient writers note that he had to specifically name Lazarus, because otherwise every dead person in hearing range would have responded to his command.
Well, that's a detail I hadn't heard before. Though what really intrigues me is what happens next. Jesus tells the community to unwrap Lazarus's grave clothes. Why not just miracle those away too?
That's like such a crucial point. It's almost a metaphor for how transformation works. The divine power brings life, but the community participates in the restoration. You see this pattern in successful addiction recovery programs today. Individual change supported by community involvement.
And speaking of community response, the aftermath is fascinating. The same miracle that brought some to faith actually hardened others in their opposition.
Right? And here's where it gets really interesting. Historical records show that religious leaders of that time were primarily concerned with maintaining social order under Roman rule. So this miracle wasn't just spiritually threatening, it was it was politically destabilizing.
That certainly adds another dimension to their reaction. It wasn't just religious resistance, it was about power and control.
And you know what's particularly relevant for today? This whole story challenges our modern obsession with immediate results. In an age of instant everything, here's a narrative suggesting that sometimes the delay is part of the miracle.
That's such a timely application. In our world of same day delivery and instant messaging, the idea of divine delay feels almost offensive.
Well, The real power of this story isn't just about physical resurrection, it's about transformation in all its forms. Whether we're talking about personal change, social justice, or systemic reform, sometimes what looks like delay is actually vital preparation for lasting change.
That's really the heart of it, isn't it? It's not just an ancient miracle story, it's a template for understanding how profound change actually happens.
Exactly. And maybe that's the biggest surprise. A story about death ends up teaching us more about how to live, about patience, community, transformation, and the courage to hope even when everything seems lost.